Hello and welcome to this month's edition of the Onalytica Influential Times. I am joined, as always, by my colleague Alistair, and we are going to talk about some of the stories in influencer marketing that are catching our eyes. To start off with, Alistair, you had some survey data that you wanted to take us through from the world of influencer marketing.
Yes, I did. And yes, this is our second sort of lockdown edition of the Influencer Times. You're going to sort of see our hair get progressively longer and scruffier. And I'm getting more and more hunched up now, getting sort of sore back. So yeah, will be interesting to look back at these and see how we kind of deteriorate month by month. But yeah, I wanted to start off with a survey that was actually carried out in March, and then results were published in April. This is a survey actually conducted by Maverick, one of our peers in the B2C focused influencer marketing space, where they surveyed a bunch of their influencers, and it was interesting to see what feedback influencers were giving about the challenges that they face during the coronavirus pandemic. So this is mainly US-based influencers here, so maybe not facing quite as strict a lockdown perhaps as some influencers in Europe, but it's interesting nonetheless to see what they gave as their main problem. So about a bit over a quarter to 27% of influencers said that they are seeing fewer collaborations from brands. So these are brands cancelling or postponing campaigns that they were going to do. A quarter then said that their main issue was that they didn't want to seem insensitive during the coronavirus crisis, that they might be, making money or just carrying on as usual in the middle of a global pandemic. And about a fifth said that their main problem was actually just blockers to creating content. So they actually can't go out and make content. Obviously, travel influencers can't do any traveling. So immediate sort of barrier. But then only about 4% said that their problem was seeing decreased engagement. So on the whole, influencers are not seeing a reduction in engagement levels. Their main problem is just that there isn't the brand opportunity there. So many of them are still creating content and still getting good engagement on their content, and they're having to innovate and pivot the sorts of content that they're creating. But I'll be interested to see whether this particular one about seeming insensitive changes over time, because I think there's a reaction initially that everything needs to stop. We need to deal with the health crisis. There's probably going to be a longer period though where the health crisis comes under a bit of control, but it's not back to life as normal, and there's still going to be restrictions and lockdown, and so we might see a little bit more acceptance that some things we need to just carry on with, and just get on with life as we best can in the midst of this crisis. And that will apply to influencer marketing as well, and that there will still be a need for brands to do advertising. There was another survey done by Kantar that showed that only 8% of the public wanted advertising to stop during the crisis. So generally speaking, I think the public recognise that businesses still need to try and do what they were doing for with being sensitive to the situation, but still need to do advertising as normal. So hopefully there will still be opportunities there for them to collaborate with brands. So that was quite an interesting survey just to see what influencers themselves were saying as being the blockers for them. Over to you, Jack.
Agreed. There's a good piece by Rand Fishkin as well, which we can link, which he called "Read the Room," about sort of thinking about how you're gonna sort of get your messages out, but in a way that is sensitive to context as much as possible. So speaking of measures that are sort of keeping us going, one of the stories I wanted to talk about is Zoom they've had a topsy-turvy kind of 6 weeks. There's obviously a huge boom in usership. It's almost become a default sort of social network in the last in the last 2 months, but then that's kind of come with challenges. Some of them are just standard challenges that you have when your user base massively grows, particularly when you've got a lot of users who kind of don't know how to use. They're not expert users, so they've had a lot of issues with security. They, I think, reacted pretty well. Basically said, "Mea culpa, we messed up, but we're going to fix it." I guess what's interesting for all of us who are trying to run not just our internal calls, but thinking about how we run online events and things like that, there's a real range of options coming, and Microsoft have put out some messaging that's around their Teams solution. See, just in the last couple of days, Google Meet, they're rolling out some of the sort of pro versions free. So I think there's quite an interesting bidding war for users kind of hotting up there. And I think for marketers, it's just about, investigate what your best options are, because there's some really good there's good options out there. Have a look. A lot of them are kind of going for a song, so that's quite positive. The other thing I had was Spotify published some data right at the beginning of the month, talking about how people's behavior is shifting. So that's obviously a theme, behavior shifting. People, at least back then, were consuming more news podcasts. I really hope for everyone's sanity that people have stopped doing that. I have stopped reading the news that much, because it's not that good for your sanity. A lot of people
are reading too much.
Yeah, I would highly recommend getting it down to like maybe just one kind of 20-minute burst a day, because otherwise you read a lot of bad stuff. I think we're seeing more they're seeing more collaborative like playlists and things like that, people collaborating on stuff, sharing what they're listening to a lot more, people listening to more calming music. And I think as well, actually, people talking about that there's more kind of family content, so stuff for the kids, stuff to put on to kind of keep the kids quiet, just for one damn minute, so I can just do this Zoom, like, Ethan, back in your room, just I beg of you. You can have anything you want afterwards, just please be quiet.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can't hear my kids screaming downstairs right now. I can hear them.
No, remarkably we spared that. So you hopefully you can also not hear my building work. So yeah, you had some interesting data on kind of shifting behavior across some of the more traditional social platforms than Spotify.
Yeah, so another good report we saw this last month from eConsultancy, actually from their sister brand, Influencer Intelligence. Some interesting findings in their report I thought I'd share as well. So one is that live streaming, perhaps no big surprise, has grown in popularity. So Twitch has seen a rise of 10% in the viewership. It's probably gone up even more since the report came out. And so we're seeing certain categories of influencer marketing are really growing. So fitness at home, here in the UK, obviously there's Joe Wicks, who's doing these kind of morning PE sessions that my wife and kids take part in, as that keeps them busy for half an hour. And
are you not keeping fit in lockdown?
I'm not doing such a good job. No, I really maybe should join in.
Okay, we're very worried about you.
I've actually got this guy next to me just to remind me to not become like that. I'm going to end up after this lockdown's over.
Yeah, he looks how I feel every single day.
Yeah, don't be a jabber. Get out there and do some exercise. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so Twitch has gone up 10%, and other categories like home cooking have grown. So it's interesting to see how some of those influencers are doing a lot of that content now for free, just to help. But they're growing their audience, and fair play to them if they benefit from that afterwards. Then I'm perfectly happy. I think we probably all are, for them to build their audiences like that, because they are helping us out with this great content at the moment. But another platform that is booming at the moment is TikTok. Maybe just because more parents are at home with their kids and seeing what their kids are doing on social media. I'm not myself. I haven't gotten to start. I'm not one of the dad TikTokers yet, but there's more of the older generation are starting to get onto TikTok now that they're seeing what their kids are doing with it. So that they've seen a 26% increase in downloads March compared to February, and it's continued to boom through April as well. The other thing that's changed is I think more influencers are, like I said, they're switching to kind of solution-based content. So not so much brand collaborations as just creating content that's kind of useful for the audiences. It's also interesting to see how organizations like the World Health Organization and the UN have got campaigns where they've enlisted the help of influencers to help get important messages out, like washing hands, for example, but also the government of Finland. So remember that Finland now has got the world's youngest leader, is also a woman. So her name's Sanna Marin. She's 36 now, 37, and she really gets social media. So it's interesting that Finland are, I think, the only country in the world that have actually listed social media influencers as key workers, and they've brought them in to help with a lot of their government messaging, government campaigns. So it'd be interesting to see whether other governments start to see what Finland's doing in working with social media influencers to get the message out. It's probably got partly to do with the fact that they've got a younger leader who understands social media.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
those are my stories.
Yeah, the government probably there has the same challenge as anywhere else, right? Is how do you get your message out? You know, not everyone watches TV at the same time. People watch stuff on catch-up. Audiences are hard to reach. So I guess if you need high levels of social compliance, it's really critical that those messages get out to everyone. Then yeah, I think it's kind of a reasonable method to use. So yeah, those are our stories. We will be emailing those out to everyone who is signed up, so we can share the sign up link to this as well. And I guess we will see you online for the next month, and then in another month for the next Influential Times. Thanks for watching.
Great. Bye, guys.